Good afternoon, everyone. And I've been empowered to moderate a panel of experts to the left of me, to the right of you, to have a discussion about buying and sourcing indoor agriculture. And what I'd like to do is start off by just kind of running down some facts, set a little bit of a mood here, and then throw some questions out to our panelists. And then afterwards, we'll have 15 minutes of Q&A, and I'll jump in if you want to ask me a question as well. I mean, I have a fully sustainable seafood restaurant, so my area of expertise and what I usually get up and talk about is ocean-related issues, but this is more about Nevada and indoor agriculture. Presently, the world population is 7 billion, and it's projected to grow to 9 billion by the year 2050. 1 billion of the 7 that presently live on this planet are malnourished or starving. And the world needs 70% to produce 70% more food by the year 2050 in order to meet the challenge of the growing population. A plan that will produce and distribute enough food to feed this planet over the next century with minimum disruption to the environment must include a major rethinking of agricultural practices, such as indoor, greenhouse, hydroponic, aquaponic, and aeroponic growing techniques. A lot of new things that are being introduced, but we're trying to find solutions to how we're going to feed the planet. I mean, we have a food insecurity discussion going on in the hospitality industry. I'm a big part of that. We're calling it Feeding the Planet. Providing food and nutrition for 9 billion people without compromising the global environment will be one of the greatest challenges our civilization will have to face. It will require the imagination, determination, and hard work of countless people and funding from all over the world, embarked on one of the most important causes in history. So there's really no time to lose. This is the world that we live in right now. And it's an opportunity as well. Our goal today is to explore the solutions and put together a plan for how Nevada can increase its indoor agricultural production in a sustainable manner and become a recognized hub for innovation as it relates to the Nevada desert environment. So my big question is out there is, how can local farmers meet the changing criteria that I'm describing here, the needs that the members of our panel are looking for in order to successfully reach the Vegas market? So who are these people on the panel? Darcy Landis, who's directly to the left of me, is the Whole Foods market forager for both Arizona and Nevada. So she makes buying decisions on what goes on the shelves of the Whole Foods of 2 states, Arizona and Nevada. Doug Taylor, he works with the UNRCE, University of Nevada Cooperative Extension, producer to chef program that has sparked a boom in small farms in southern Nevada. He's also the manager of Bet on the Farm. It's a farmer's market that's held on Thursdays that offers fresh fruits, vegetables, and other foods from the regional farmers. And that's not enough, because he's got a lot of extra time on his hand. He's also the pastry chef for 3 restaurants under the Batali Bastianish hospitality group. So a very busy person with a lot of interesting information to share with you. We were going to have Kerry Clasby, who's also, she calls herself the intuitive forager. She's a modern hunter-gatherer who drives over 1,500 miles a week in her little SUV, searching for the world's best food. Artisanal-minded chefs from all over the West purchase from her and rely on her for farmers markets as well as chefs and restaurateurs to provide unique products that can't readily be found anywhere else. She couldn't make it here today because she's foraging around for the dinner that Alice Waters is doing tonight in California, so we respect that. Now what I'd like to do is allow each of the panelists about 5 minutes to further introduce themselves and to tell you a little bit more about what they do. And then I'll present a few specific questions directly to them to stimulate a little bit of a discussion. And then we're going to leave 15 minutes for Q&A. So if you have questions as we're going through, jot them down. We'd be more than happy to recognize you. So, Darcy?
Hi, everybody. Whoa, I'm loud. Thank you for the nice introduction. Again, my name is Darcy Landis. I represent Whole Foods Market. My job as forager means that I go out into the community, I look for new products for our stores, and I'm an advocate for local suppliers for our stores. That means I make a space for you at the store. I help you navigate our systems. Going from a farmer's market system to a retail environment can be challenging for a grower, and I can help you with the information that you need to meet the standards that we're looking for. I can give suggestions about types of products that my customers have asked for. Basically, I always say I'm a jack of all trades, a master of none. I know a little bit about everything that you need to know about working with whole foods, about natural foods, and I always know another guy who knows a lot more. So if you ever have any questions, definitely see me after this and I can kind of guide you in the right direction. I'm really excited about this conference because one thing that I've found surprising in the Vegas area is how hard it has been for me to bring local farmers to my market. And I really would like my customers to be able to get fresh, unique, local products, as well as to have this community grow. It's not just a transient community. There's a lot of great people in the community, and having a reliable food system here that speaks to the culture of Las Vegas and Southern Nevada, I think would be amazing. And I am excited that I could be a little part of it, and so I'd like to be able to support you guys in your efforts, and to see so many of you turn out for this is really exciting. And I guess I don't have 5 minutes to talk about myself. I thought for sure if there's anything I can talk about for 5 minutes, it's me. But I definitely maybe will use a little extra from now at the end to answer questions you guys have.
What percentage would you say, at least in the Nevada market, of produce that's being presented at Whole Foods comes from local producers?
I don't have a hard number on that, as silly as that sounds, but I mean, definitely less than 5%. I could tell you like exactly what I have in the stores right now, and it's what I have been able to procure, and it's not very much.
Well, that's an interesting thing to throw out there in the beginning, I think, because what we're trying to do is figure out a way where we can change that.
Definitely.
Okay, Doug, you can have 7 minutes.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Some extra time.
It's okay. So my name's Doug. How you doing? I'm representing the University of Nevada's Cooperative Extension here in Vegas today. And what we did back in 2008, I think it was, when I started with the Cooperative Extension, is we designed a program that would connect farmers to chefs, to the industry, because we saw that there was a gap. There was a disconnect of two different worlds. You know, farmers generally are up very early, and chefs aren't, unless they're drinking and partying.
No.
Yeah, I know. So the two worlds weren't meeting here in Vegas. And when I first moved to Vegas in 2006, it was a culture shock to me that these mega hotels, these mega restaurants, the biggest names in the world, chef-wise, were in a city, and nobody was, except for very few, Rick being one of them at that time, that were doing anything local at all. And so through the extension, we have developed a program that, using me and my connections, because I am friends and I know a lot of chefs because I'm a chef, and I go out late and I have beers and we talk and I tell them, hey, this is where you get greens from, this is where you get carrots from, this guy's, asparagus is coming up. And so we developed a connection. And through that, over the last couple of years, we have been able to break into the system. Not as much as I would like, but we've made massive headway from where we were a few years ago to where we are now. The number of producers are up, the amount of product that each producer is producing has increased every year by 100%. And we just keep moving forward. It's slow sometimes because Vegas is one of these cities where great chefs will come here, and they will work for greater chefs, and then sometimes will leave to go home. And at that point, then you have to start over. And so that's kind of one of the things that we work with and are trying now to build those deeper relationships into not only having the relationship with Rick, I'll use you as an example, but the owner, the chef owner of the property, but his executive chef, his sous chef, and down the line, so that as people move through or they change jobs, that there is still some connection throughout the restaurant, and to really develop more of a relationship between the producer and the restaurants. So that's in a very small bit what we do. It's very much hands-on, and it's basically me talking a lot to a lot of people, and we just keep going. We use the farmers market as a source to kind of showcase what the producers are doing on a weekly basis, and it gives them an outlet also to allow a place for chefs to come and kind of check it out and see what's really going on, meet the farmers, because a lot of times they don't have the time to go out to all these farms and check them out and even know where they're at. And so the Bet on the Farm allows that and really embraces that environment of everyone becoming a community and working together, because as each farmer is successful, it builds a bigger pathway into all these mega resorts. The first year I remember we started, and you can cut me off whenever you want. No. The first year we started, I remember it was very hard to get in because most of the properties are owned by one company on the Strip, and so you were going through purchasing agents that were doing such volume that a small farm of 10 acres or 50 acres or 100 acres even are so small and so boutique in the massive purchasing buying of what's really going on an everyday basis. And it took a while for us to kind of break through and I used the restaurants I work for as kind of guinea pigs to kind of work with the farmers to show consistency, to get used to what was going on, and to talk about quality of product on a weekly basis, which we found was something that was a serious discussion that had to happen. And it's something that we work on all the time because I think Rick and I were having this conversation the other day was, you farmers or ranchers have issues called weather. It affects everything. It affects your product, your numbers. You have so many things that you have to worry about. But at the end of my day, the guests that I'm serving it to, they don't care if there was a bug, that wiped out half your crop. They don't care what happened. They expect it to be this perfect thing. And so the consistency that I accept at the restaurant or through the market that I talk to all the producers about has to be at the same level every week. And for that to be downgraded at all almost does more damage than it does good. So I feel like I'm running on a tangent, but so we're just, that's where we're starting. This is what we've been doing. I'm completely 100% committed to expanding and moving the local market, local food of all aspects into Vegas. Vegas consumes about, I think the number is about 1.5 billion in produce, agriculture per year. My goal still today is to capture 1% of that, of local farmers or ranchers. We're not there yet, but we've come a long way in the last couple of years, and I think with more conferences, more awareness, moving forward, we will get to that point where we will become like every other city where, it's not such a boutique thing anymore. It's naturally what you would do is talk to your local farmer, and the farmers will be at every back door of every restaurant.
Well, there's a huge demand for it. I mean, from the facts I was saying in the beginning, we need to become more locally dependent, but we certainly have challenges.
Absolutely.
I mean, we have water issues, you have to irrigate, and I believe 90% of the potable water goes towards that right now. So, there's issues. So you need to select, we need to balance between the demand and the supply. What can be supplied in this environment? Well, we were talking earlier, we have sunlight, we have heat, right? We can put this indoors and we can control it on some level, but then what do we do about, the strains of agricultural products that we are producing? They need to be somewhat drought resistant and capable of handling the temperatures of the desert. So, I mean, these are certainly, I think collectively, we want to all see a larger portion of what's being presented at the markets such as Whole Foods, as well as farmers markets and restaurants all over to embrace. There's a lot.
There's one every day of the week now, and on Saturday and Sunday, I think there's 2 or 3. 2.
Yeah, and
Two on-
what
two
you
on
may
Friday,
be
sorry.
what you may be envisioning in your mind as a farmer's market. Sometimes they're really small, almost farm stand size, and some of them are a lot more elaborate. Such as Bet on the Farm. It's a really great farmer's market. Let me go into a couple of specific questions, and I have a question for you. How involved are you on a day-to-day basis on the purchasing decisions at the restaurants?
I buy every day.
You buy every single
Yeah,
day.
because
So-
usually I'm out at the farms almost every day. So like this week, like I picked up local rhubarb from Pahrump, and I mean, I'm just out there, and I'm trying to move it in a way that I'm going to take what I use at the restaurants, but then when you come into dinner, or another chef comes into dinner, I'm going to show you like, hey, I'm not just giving you rhubarb. I'm giving you rhubarb that was grown a couple miles from here.
Food has a story.
Yeah.
It's supposed to have a story.
And, yeah.
And that's what chefs want, and that's where food's going. And I'm encouraging chefs and people in the hospitality industry to be more connected with their food. Get to know your farmers, know where your stuff comes from, because you're going to be paying more for it if you're doing it right, and we have to do it right, because we have a history of kind of messing up. We're not putting our toys away at the end of the night, and we're ending up with some a bigger realization that we have to live in a more symbiotic relationship with our environment. So let me ask you, Darcy, what's the best way for farmers or local producers to introduce their products to appear in the Whole Foods produce section?
Well, I think that there are different levels that a farmer may start at. For one thing, you might be at the level where you can supply a restaurant. You might be at the level where you can supply a farmer's market or a farm stand, and then you might be ready to go retail. And that is a little bit different. In our particular program at Whole Foods, we're really working on this as a partnership to grow the local growing community in the areas that I work in Arizona and in Las Vegas. It is a growing segment of the population, and I understand that that's a partnership, that I have to work with people to get to where they need to be. I'm not expecting the same thing that another retailer might be expecting right off the bat, that at a larger level we would be, but we still are at a retail level. So we are looking for a product that can be sold to a consumer end result. Like this isn't going to be made into pasta sauce. This tomato is going to go on the produce shelf ready for a customer to get. We all help tell the story of how fresh the product is, of who you are and where you come from, but that is communicated in a different way in retail than it is at the farmer's market. At the farmer's market, you're there doing that. That customer went there to meet you, and we're trying to get that message to the customer in a retail environment is a little bit harder, so we do have a little bit higher standard maybe of what we're looking for as far as quality and consistency. And I'm really honest with people about that when I start working with them in their produce, and we can definitely, we don't break a relationship in a partnership like this because there are bumps in the road. We can work through it, but that is something that you, as a grower producer, would need to realize that the market that we're at. Also, because of the size of our operation, although I'm willing to work with somebody on like whatever you have, like a small amount for one store is okay, we do need you to meet certain criteria that you might not have to meet selling direct to the public. There are government standards that I need you to meet. There are safety standards that I need you to meet. There is licensing that you have to acquire. If you want to work direct with me, which a lot of farmers love the idea of working direct, you need to have a trucking system in place, and who's going to deliver the produce, and who's going to do the accounting, and do you know how to use a computer to do accounting? Because we'll require that, and that's hard. Those are all things that you need to think about. So I'm looking for a lot of different things, and I'm really flexible about it. I would say that it's an individual conversation with each producer. But in the end, what I'm looking for is a really great, unique product, something that you're proud of, so that our customers can be excited about it.
It seems to be quite a challenge, because when you think about it, if you're going to go into a supermarket, historically, the produce section is always about, it's a beauty contest. It's not really directly based to nutrition and texture and flavor, you know? And then when you have to put it on a shelf, it has to sell itself. So Whole Foods has to feel a higher obligation of making sure it looks pretty, because organic and local gets a little gnarly, but it has a better story, and that's where, you know, farmers market can fill in that gap and help to move that along. And as people appreciate that, then it could prime the pump for maybe more acceptance in an environment such as a Whole Foods or a marketplace.
I mean, I think the customer is willing to give it a shot, which for other things they might not be. So I think that the market is there, but
Well, customers are willing to give it a shot and pay more. I mean, we've seen that in America as a trend, just the growth of Whole Foods alone, as well as similar type markets. Doug, what is it that you're looking for when it comes to product purchases on a weekly basis? And when you're sourcing and buying these products for the farmer's market and or your restaurants, what is your criteria in terms of price versus, you know, what I'm saying is texture and flavor and nutrition? Big question.
Yeah. Okay. So on a weekly basis, I'm looking for, because I'm able to source through so many different farmers. I don't need so much volume from one individual, but I do need it to be somewhat consistent throughout, from farm to farm. So same varieties, that kind of stuff. So if we're talking apples, if it's the season for like Pink Ladies or Fuji or whatever, like I want to be able to stay within that pattern for at least a couple weeks, so that, you know, I don't have cooks just pulling out different apples or, you know, mixing because they don't really know yet. What was the other part of the question? Sorry.
What
On
is
a
your
weekly
criteria in
basis?
terms of price versus
Price?
the
Price is negotiable to a certain point. I have bosses that I have to be accountable to, and every month I have P&Ls that I have to be able to say, this is where the money is going, and be able to justify it. But I'm willing to pay more for a product that I can get behind, and that I can use. Excuse me. So it is negotiable, but it has to be within reality. If you're asking me to pay, let's say this week was rhubarb, you're asking me to pay $7 a pound for rhubarb, there's no way that's going to ever happen. Like, I just can't do it. I love the story. I could love the farm, but that's not. By the time I break it down, turn it into a plate, pay for labor and everything else, I'm not making anything. I'd have to charge like $30 a plate for a dessert. I don't know how many of you want to pay $30 for dessert. And I make good desserts, but not $30. Yeah.
What do you pay for ramps?
Yeah, so, but, you know,
not the right venue to ask
yeah,
questions.
ramps are different, but, you know, it depends on the product, availability, that kind of stuff. But if you're talking about local sourcing, you know, it has to be within that market price of what I can get it, because I have to look at it and I have to look at it as my boss is going to look at me and say, why are you going to pay this price when you can go to a large trucking company and pay $4 less? Like, is it really that good? Does it really mean that much to you? And I have to be able to justify that answer. And that's my job. And so just like anyone else, if I don't do my job, I don't get to have my job. So I have to do it on a daily basis. And that's what kind of dictates where I am at and what it is. Now, there are exceptions to those rules. Couple last spring, a farmer out of Caliente brought me these beautiful little wild strawberries. Mm-hmm. I paid through the nose for them, but he only had 2 pounds. That was it. And it was amazing, and I loved them, and I haven't had them again, but, you know, it was something that I was very connected to and was able to make it work for myself. But if he would have had 50 pounds of them, there's no way I could have taken it. Like, there's no way I could absorb that kind of risk. So, I mean, it's a touch and go kind of thing. One of the things that does persuade me to spend a little bit more is the relationship I have with the producer. And I think that's fair to say for any chef. The more involved I am with you, the more of a friendship or a relationship, the more I know about your farm, the more I know about you and what you're doing, the more I'm involved with it, and the more I feel connected to you, and the more I can push that. Because at the end of the day, at 4 o'clock, I have to go to my servers, and I have to sell them on what I just bought so that they can sell it and make money. And if they don't sell it, if I can't sell them on it, they're not going to sell it, and then it just sits there, you know. And as any farmer knows, food only lasts so long. So I only have X amount of days before now I've lost out on it. So that, you know, there is flexibility, but the communication, the relationship is, I would say sometimes, you know, like up to like 25% of my decision.
Well, value perception is really
Yeah.
what you're describing. It's people will pay if they perceive that it's worth it, and it's up to us to produce a product that people can realize the difference, and then the story that goes along with it, I think, is where the value perception comes in, and I think that falls into both the retail as well as the
Yeah.
restaurant. Quick question, just to change in a different direction. What products would you like to obtain year-round but can't in Nevada? I'll ask you first.
I would, from what customers are telling me, I would say, first off, people ask me the most often why I don't have local eggs. That's like the number one thing I get asked, why don't I have local eggs? So if any of you would like to start an egg program, please contact me. I would also, going along with what customers are looking for, I think that you know, honestly. There are two things that customers are looking for, the same exact items that you have a relationship with. Those are the items that your customers are looking for. There are two ways you might have that relationship, I think. Like, there's a childhood relationship. You know, everybody loves, if they like ever were in a garden, everybody loves a fresh tomato. And we heard about that earlier, like what does a fresh tomato taste like? And you know the difference, right? So there's always people want tomatoes. There's always people want stone fruit. There's always, you know, the items that everybody kind of knows that you get excited when it's that time of year and it's available. But there's another thing that only you know what your customer wants, and that's what do you do that's awesome? Like, I honestly don't need everyone to try to do tomatoes because people like garden fresh tomatoes. If you do the best zucchini, it's like zucchini might not sound that exciting, but it can be really exciting. I was just sending pictures to relatives of lettuce a couple weeks ago, which I'm, you know, and everybody loves my texts. But I got really excited about lettuce because this farm was doing lettuce awesome. And like everybody does lettuce. I was in a farm in Arizona. That's like the lettuce bowl of the world. Like, who cares about another lettuce? I care. That was like awesome lettuce. Yep. And so if you can come to me and you can say, this is what I can produce for you, and I'm so excited about it, I'm going to be excited about it, and my customer's going to be excited about it, and it's a relationship. And to speak to what Doug was saying about the relationship that you have with the chef, I think that also extends to the end customer, the person who eats it. It's you build a trust with them, and they keep coming back. So when I can really say to people, the reason that you should buy local is because it is the best, then I want that to be true. I don't want it to be like another whatever. I want it to be the thing that you are so proud of, so that I can be so proud of it, so that I can develop that relationship with the customer that they're saying, hey, I live in Las Vegas and I want the local apricots because those are the best apricots. You know, that's one thing I think that Vegas is known for, that I think that the producing community can get behind, is people know that they can get like the best whatever here, right? Like, people come from all over the world and they want the best whatever, so let's give them the best things that you can produce, not just whatever some random person told you to get. Like, what is the best? And that's what I would like to see.
Doug, what product would you like to obtain year-round but you can't?
the product I would really like that you can't get at all in this state right now is raw milk. I would love to start making cheese.
Yeah,
but
heard, yeah.
it's not happening right now.
It's not.
But you guys are all here, so if you want to
Get it on the black
get on
market.
board, we could do it. But there's people moving forward in it and trying really hard.
You say moving forward? I like
forward.
that.
Yeah. A gentleman named Brett at Artisanal Foods is pretty much single-handedly spearheading it by himself
Yeah.
right now, and he's working really hard for it. And it could be something in the future, but I really wish we could do that because
We're already touching on this, but I'm going to ask you this. Does it help to have a relationship between chefs and producers, local producers? And how does the UNRCE work with them?
well, we work with them in a lot of ways. One through me and my relationships, and I really work hard at trying to stay connected to every one of the producers that I work with, whether I'm buying from them or I just have a relationship with them and I'm trying to push them off onto Darcy or push them into other stores or other avenues. Trying to find the word.
I mean, my observation has been that the chef-farmer relation is what drives my retail. It's like you work with the farmer so that you can find out what's great. You tell the customers this is great. They maybe never heard of ramps before, and then they're at my store all the time. Why don't you have ramps? They're great.
What's wrong with you?
I think that you maybe develop the relationship that way.
I think the relationship between the producer and the chef is what spearheads what is next in line. We develop the culture for what, whether it's a new variety of strawberry or it's a new whatever it's going to be, Italian broccolis or whatever it's going to do. We're that connection, and then like Darcy said, and then it spreads from there. And so our relationship, our team effort, is what moves forward. The other thing we do at the extension is we have on North Decatur, we have a test orchard, which is basically, it's a couple acres, and there's all these trees and vegetable beds, and we plant and we do projects on them. We see what grows, what varieties. We give that information to farmers, but we also give it and use it for chefs and invite chefs out to kind of see what grows here. And one of the biggest things that I talk to when I talk to new chefs that have just moved here or that may have been here for a little while and are now in a position where they can start looking for local food is they're always like, things grow here? And I'm like, yeah, and I can take you out and show you. I can show you a lot of farms, but I can show you one that is based just for you to come and eat whatever you want and try whatever you want and check it out. I mean,
What are the opportunities to kind of think outside the box a little bit and create more of a relationship between chefs, restaurants, and farmers? And what I mean is something, I was getting some eggs and some products from a small farmer, someone that I knew personally, and he's growing them in, near Pahrump.
yeah.
And they would give me the eggs, and I would save during the course of the week all this edible scrap, that could either become compost or you can feed the chickens directly. They would pick up bags and bags of them, and then we'd get the eggs. And they were giving me the eggs for free because of that, and they were selling the eggs to other people, and that's how they stayed. And I just wonder if relationships like this could help to keep the costs in line, or so I'm kind of wondering if there's. And I'm planting this as a seed. There's no answer, but is there a way that perhaps in the future we could work a little bit more hand in hand with each other, where maybe a farmer produces a restaurant with, 3 bins that, and specifically what they wanted, and they pick it up, and then they can maybe help keep their costs down, pass those cost savings on to the people that are participating correctly with the program, and then consequently get more momentum in making what we would like to see happen.
Well, we've been working with one farmer, and a couple years ago he came to us and said, we're doing great, we're selling you a lot of stuff, and he was selling us a lot. And but he said, my costs are going up, fuel's going up. I don't know what to do because if I keep raising the prices, you guys are going to find something else. He was very smart.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So all of his farming equipment was diesel, so we started saving all of our fryer oil. He would pick it up when he dropped off the food. He'd take it home. He'd turn it into biodiesel. He cut his cost. It was that relationship, though, that we had, where if somebody else just walks into my restaurant and says, "Can I have your fryer oil?" I'll just be like, "I'm really busy right now. I'll have someone else call you," you know? But because of our relationship, because I don't look at it as, I look at it as more of a team effort. And that's the connection I really have and feel for each one of my producers. Like I said, whether I buy from them or not, I really feel a strong relationship with them. And I do whatever I really can to help and to be the example, kind of, so that, and I give that information to other chefs, you know, because chefs are always in each other's kitchens. We work together, we drink together, we party, we do it, so we're always there. And so we walk into other kitchen and we're like, "Oh, what's this?" You know, and we're always trying to like help and spread that word.
We try to bridge that gap, maybe
Yeah.
create a closer relationship. I want to talk about hydroponic and aquaponic produce. Are there advantages or disadvantages, pros, cons, stigmas that are attached to that as far as at Whole Foods and also in the farmer markets?
I would say that for hydroponic, aquaponic, aeroponic, any ponic systems, that the customer is not very educated in those areas. Specifically at Whole Foods, we are a huge retailer of organics, and our customers often come to the store looking for a certified organic product. That can be a stumbling block if you are currently doing a hydroponic product to get the premium price that you'd like to get for it, because there isn't a current organic certification. You know, there's legislation about that, and we'll see what happens. And I think a lot of that has to do with education. Many people who are doing hydroponic systems are doing incredibly clean systems that are above and beyond what an organic system would require, and the customer doesn't get that. Part of our job can be to educate the customer in that area. Again, if things are too hard to understand when you're shopping for tomatoes, it might be a little bit tiring, you know? A lot of the systems that I have seen in the arid areas that I work are greenhouse systems as opposed to hydroponic systems. And again, when you're looking for a price point, local has a cachet to it that you can demand more for a quality local product, but an organic local product can bring a lot better price to the farmer. So greenhouse might have currently a little bit better market value. Hydroponic, if you do a true hydroponic system that were to meet our standards for, you know, fish quality, feed, etc., I think that there's a great demand for that, and I think that that would be a bonus. But under the current ones, maybe it's got a negative.
I just want to ask you one quick question because we're getting close to Q&A, 15 minutes. But as far as Whole Foods and local producers getting their products into the market, is there much red tape or paperwork involved in order to sell to you? And is there a minimum amount of volume that they have to have in order to get a placement? I mean, is there a you know, if there's any, and is there special packaging that they need to also consider?
For our local program specifically, I'm speaking to that. If you were to want to grow into the regional or global program, it would be different. But for the local program, it's basically a partnership, and I'll work with you. Like, if you need to deliver it, I've had guys come and get banana boxes from my store that they use to box their produce in because they couldn't figure out how to deal with it. And that can work. I've had people who sell me apricots for one day and we're sold out and everybody freaks out, and that can work. As far as red tape, I do have the scary paperwork that I will walk you through. And it basically is just going through stuff you really should have already done and documenting it. It's not a big deal.
So there's an interest, there's a willingness for markets, for chefs, for hospitality industry to create a closer relationship and support more local, locally grown indoor greenhouse, aquaponic, you know, all the ponics, et cetera. Right now, though, I'd like to open up to the audience questions that perhaps we could shed some light on your queries.
Just to touch upon that last question, How big are some of the smaller providers that you do deal with?
So I work with a lot of different types of products. To specifically speak to like produce, for instance, I feel like everybody here is mostly produce oriented, yeah? I worked with a farm a couple years ago that was less than 3 acres, and they just supplied me with bulk herbs during Thanksgiving. I also work with farms who are national suppliers, you know, who do lettuce for Costco, who do a different program for me. So, I mean, it really ranges all over the place. Basically, if you are willing to work with me and deliver the product that my customers need, I'm like willing to do it too.
Doug?
I'm sorry.
How big a farm?
Oh, how big are farms? I don't have a. I'll take anybody. Like, I mean, because it depends on like the product, you know. I mean, if you're doing, you know, I don't know, herbs, you know, you don't need a whole. I don't need a whole lot of space to buy from you because you can grow a lot of mint in a very small area. So it just depends on the product, but I don't really have a qualification kind of for that. And even if I'm not the one buying from you, I can lead you to somebody else, and I'll be like, oh, you know, you're probably the right size, and go talk to Rick, or go talk to these guys, or, you know, like, and that's generally a lot what I do is like, I'm like, oh, you might fit in this area. Like this guy called me the other day, or I've been talking to him for a while, and he's growing microgreens, and, you know, he's like, well, why don't you buy? And I was like, well, it's not really the style of our restaurants, and so we don't use them, but, you know, these could be restaurants that you could go after, you know. And then I will, if he calls me back, which I'm sure he will. I think he actually called me today. You know, we'll work together, and I can find the numbers, or, you know, find somebody that works there, or whoever that person is that he can hopefully talk to, and then move forward in that program.
Hi, my name's Rick. I'm involved with a number of grassroots groups that are sustainably oriented, and so I'd like to extend an invitation to Darcy in particular, but also to Doug, to consider networking and speaking with the Vegas Real Food Project and the Vegas Green Jelly Project. Both groups have about several hundred members that are very active on Facebook and meet on a weekly basis. Part of the reason I recommend that is that when I went to the Seedstock conference in October, I met the foragers there. Darcy, I don't think you were there at that conference. I knew your existence, and so since October, I've been asking the producers that I go to on a weekly basis, the Downtown Third Farmers Market, which is my favorite one, like Quail Hollow Farms or Crossfire Ranch Farms, and several of them will come in and out whether they'd even heard of the Forager Project at Whole Foods, and they had not. So I think, you know, as somebody that's in the community a lot increasingly and is aware of a lot of the grassroots efforts over the past year that is considering to grow by leaps and bounds, I think there should be more of a dialogue between Whole Foods and you as the local forager. The other reason I say that too is, and this is the carrot to go along with the stick, back in February I was part of a nationwide urban agriculture fundraising project which involved about 60 different communities that was raising funds for school and urban gardens across the country. And I helped the local charity called Create a Change Now, which links celebrity chefs with gardens in the local schools. And so I know what Whole Foods does in terms of your salad bar programs and your urban gardens programs. And I'll make one other suggestion. I know an entity locally now that's involved in 17 schools to do school gardens. If you're looking for local produce, besides the educational effort, these are going to be year-round gardens that are crowdfunding sourced through a platform that's local called greenourplanet.org. That could be a constant stream of produce that could potentially have STEM and other kinds of educational implications, as well as produce for the Whole Foods markets. So if you don't know about that, I wonder it's because you're not spending enough time in Las Vegas talking to some of the local groups that are really trying to get the local food movement off the ground.
Thanks, Rick. Any questions?
I have a question.
Oh, there you are.
I'm from Iowa, so take that into account when I ask this question. And you could deep dive on this, but I wasn't necessarily looking for that. But I had a crazy idea that if you were to take hydroponic shipping containers and partner those with your chefs, so your shipping container hydroponic system is right outside the door, is that appealing to a chef, to a restaurant, where you could potentially have your own custom mixed microgreens right outside the back door? Did I explain that very well? Sometimes the words don't come out very well.
No, I understand what you're saying. Yes, it is very appealing.
Did everybody hear the question?
I don't know if it's practical for me in
Sure.
Vegas, because the back door to the restaurant for me is 3 floors up and about a half a mile into a cave that you drive cars through. So the only place that you would put something like that isn't like next to the dumpster in the basement, which doesn't sound appealing to me.
Okay.
In other environments or other restaurant cities, where they would have outdoor space like that,
Yeah.
I would see that as possibly something that could be very popular, because you're creating like basically a green space in a parking lot, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like if I was in a different city, like, yeah, that would be pretty cool. But for the Vegas market, where you have sometimes up to like 70 restaurants in one hotel,
Right.
space is very limited.
So it's basically hydroponic urban farming, right, is what
Yes.
you're talking about?
Yeah.
I think it'd work really well with independent restaurants, standalones, downtown, certain aspects in the casino world if they have access to the roof and if they can get, permission to do so. But I think it's a cool idea.
Yeah,
Myself,
no, it's a
as a
very cool
chef,
idea.
I think it's awesome. If you can produce your own food that you're serving to your customers, that's one of the best stories you could possibly have. But it's not really practical at this point, I believe, right?
Not here in the city.
Sure.
Not that I can see in a
So
mass
right.
way.
Right, I'm from Iowa, we have a little more Latin. But yes, I just wanted to throw that in. Thank you.
Hello, David Perkins again. I wanted to address Rick's concern about bringing the chefs and the farmers together. In 1936, Dale Carnegie made a very powerful statement to speak in terms of the other person's interest. And I think that most people would agree that the chef wants to have a unique product, which is actually what the farmer and the locally produced people here do, is to actually create that. And if I can tell a story on that, we're all familiar that when you go to Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco, is that one of the things you probably want to pick up there is some sourdough bread. Well, it's unique there, but there's actually a story behind it. The original ovens were brought over by from France, because he wanted to produce authentic French sourdough bread in San Francisco. Well, it turned out the atmospheric conditions made it different to where most people thought that it tasted better. So if there's some uniqueness that somebody has as they're growing and produce, I would say capitalize on it, because that's exactly what the chefs, I'm sure, are looking for. There was also a question on how many markets there were. I just happened to be sitting next to a young lady here that's producer of this magazine, and in it, it shows that there's 5 of them. So, and there's a lot of other information in here that's pretty neat too. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Terry Daney from White Hills Ranchettes. I'm looking to find out if you as chefs and foragers and bed on the farm deal would be interested in perennial vegetables. We're talking like air potatoes, roots, things that a lot of the foragers would actually get when they go drive 1,500 miles to go pick these unusual fruits and vegetables that are out in the wild. If a greenhouse was to incorporate those foods in a perennial atmosphere, climatized, controlled perennial atmosphere, would you use them?
Like just throughout the year, like
Yeah.
seasonally? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Would they sell?
I don't see any reason why they would
Why
not
not?
sell at all.
Thank you.
I mean, unless they just were inedible or so expensive that we couldn't make money on it. Seriously.
Different. They're real different. They're not something most people grow in their backyard.
No, and that's
Rhubarb is one of them, but obviously that's a pretty popular one because a lot of people make pies and desserts with it. But there's a lot like an air potato. Most people consider it a weed because it takes over the ground when it's growing. But on the other side of the coin, it grows above ground. It is a potato and it's very sweet. It's different. So there's a lot of them out there. And I was looking at incorporating it in our greenhouse. It won't be tomorrow, but soon, we hope.
Go for it. I think there would be a market for it.
My name is Jim Farland from Encinitas, California. I'd like you to respond to this idea, given your interest in farmers markets. Do you believe, or do you think there's efficacy in looking at a permanent place for farmers in the community, outdoors, in a more interesting environment, sort of, for those of you who are old enough to remember the Los Angeles Farmers Market and the amazing cultural diversity that occurred around the marketplace through the avenue of food, that gave farmers in the community at one point in time in LA, the local farmers, a permanent place and a way to have a really interesting relationship with their customers. Thank you so much.
You're talking about inside Vegas?
Anywhere in a sort of a Vegas commons setting where you would have interesting outdoor space and opportunities for some outdoor kitchens, even some performance venues, where you'd show up and you'd know the farmer because he was there last week, and the farmer wouldn't be running around doing these 4-hour markets all over the metropolitan. I'm not against the 4-hour markets. I just think they're a distraction for a lot of small farmers. They're very expensive, and if you want to cut cost and really look out, sort of outside the box at creating a more trusting relationship between the farmer and his food customer, it seems to me you've got to give them a venue to do that.
Yeah,
That could happen inside of a large market,
yeah.
maybe. Well, you're looking for, these farmers markets, there's 5 of them, they pop up and they go away, and it's not always convenient for the person to have that time to shop there or do it, yet they may have an interest in it. It's basically what I see from my perspective, and I may be wrong on this, but it seems as though we're still at an experimental stage on this, and we're trying to create more momentum and more interest and more support, and I see it happening. But we're not there yet, and I think that's why we're having a discussion here today to learn a little bit more about maybe hopefully that a couple of thoughts have gone into, maybe I'll go in that direction. Maybe we'll pursue more of that. And hopefully we've helped you to think a little bit differently, outside the box. Buying and sourcing, it's what we do every single day. I do it, Darcy does it, Doug does it, and we're just trying to figure out how we can bridge the gap to encourage more indoor agriculture here in Las Vegas. And I hope that we've delivered that to you today. All right? And I thank you all. Any other questions? And
Just one more.
we have time for one more? No? I'm sorry, that's all we have
One more.
time
This
for.
is the second time I was cut off. How about one more question? Maybe?
All right.
Maybe? Okay, awesome. So my name is Adrienne Wilton. I'm with Living Restoration. We're based out of Brooklyn. And we specialize in urban rooftop management and designer agriculture. So to kind of jump off of what the young lady said earlier about the shipping container and there not being space in restaurants to, or outside of restaurants to do any sort of agriculture, I was wondering if here in Nevada you guys have considered some things that we're doing in New York, which is incorporating designs into the actual interior design of a restaurant. So we're doing that using living walls and things like that that could actually grow your food within your actual establishment. And if you see a need for that here, or if you see a need for me here.
I think it's really cool. I'd like to see that happen. I've seen a couple of places that tried to do it, didn't do a great job on it. I know Tony Shea's got a living wall room. I think there's certainly an opportunity for it. I'd like to see it personally. I don't know.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see it. We've talked about it in our restaurant group, is trying to install them. The biggest problem we found is that we don't have any real outside windows. So we're kind of closed in where we don't have natural light of any kind.
Nothing that can't be solved, but also a restriction. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
All right,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you. All right, thanks everyone. Hope you enjoyed our panel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darcy. Thank you, Doug.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
Thank you.
All right, everyone enjoy. Have a good day.